Hi, this is Alan, and you have reached Inner Whispers Radio episode number 7. And this show always features April Crawford, who is a full-body Open Deep Trance Channel and best-selling author, and Veronica, which is a non-physical being, causal point entity. And the basic format is that I waste some time in the beginning, then hand the phone to April, and then we bring in Veronica, and she talks about all kinds of things of which I have no advanced knowledge. So anyway, I'm going to hand the phone to April, see what she has to say, then we're going to talk to Veronica. Hold on.
Hi, everyone, and I'm having my moment to speak every week, which I'm really excited about all the time because usually no one wants to talk to me. They want to talk to Veronica. There's been a lot of people who have asked, where I go and what I do while I'm channeling. And I think I've addressed a lot of that, but I'd also like to tell you today about how it affects my daily life, being a deep trance channel. When I was younger, I was a dancer, as I've told all of you before, and I was busy running from this job to that job. I was enjoying the physical expression of it, which kept me really grounded. But I really missed a lot of the nuances of physical reality. I didn't have an appreciation for it. I just thought, okay, this is how it is, and this is what I'm doing, and I, would run through my day. Since I've been channeling, which has been a very long time now, close to 30 years, each time I come back from a channeling session, I look around at the reality and I see how fragile and what an exquisite kind of creation it is. I've learned to appreciate the life of an ant as it crawls across an anthill, saying, well, that's their reality and that's what they're doing. And to them, that's the universe. So I've been able to have a real clear identification with physical reality as well as traversing other dimensional spaces while I'm channeling. And when I come back, I now have a deep appreciation. I look at the trees, I try to commiserate with the trees and the plants, and when I put in my garden every year, I talk to the plants because I know they all have consciousness, and I know they hear me. And even though they don't communicate in the same way I do, I understand their existence now much more than I used to. And when I look around, I realize that I've created this environment that I'm in, and I say, wow, pretty good. So deep trance channeling has helped me immensely be more aware and more aware of who I am as a soul.
Okay, well, let's see if Veronica will show up within the next 10 seconds. Okay, Veronica's here. A very interesting experience in person. Anyway, Veronica, we get a lot of comments by email and on the comment section here. And plus, just people who call in and have sessions and readings. One of the groups of questions has to do with how people they believe they're spiritually aware, they get it, thought creates reality, how can they help other people? And I would group this into, can you co-create or can you create in another person's reality? And I'm not talking about sending a gift card like I wish you well to someone who's terminally ill. I'm talking about, can they cure? Can a person who's really into it and has a relative who's, say, dying of cancer, can they cure that person of cancer? And then there's another one following that that's a little different. But it falls within the category of, can you create in another person's reality?
Good day to all of you. It is Veronica, and we have just been asked a question by the Alan Crawford. And we would start by saying that it is an individual creative moment for each of you, and there's free will involved in all of it. So anytime someone is creating something, it's usually from their own free will. Now, let's say in the state of cancer, someone is very ill. You can blend with their energy if your energy is pretty clear. And getting your energy pretty clear means probably some meditative moments where you wipe out all the drama of your day and sort of encapsulize your own energy and extend it to the person who might be ill at the moment. Now, the tricky part is that the person who might be afflicted with a cancerous moment has to be open to that, has to be aware that you're doing that, and use their free will to make the choice to blend with the energy so that something can be done. And a lot of times there'll be an individual who is a healer type that says, well, I'm sending this energy. But if the person involved is not engaging the energy, then it's not going to be as effective. So we'd say if you have a loved one who is of the same mindset as you, sit with them and decide that you're both going to try to co-create together a better moment for them. And a lot of times it can work. But it depends upon the person's ability to receive and accept and their openness to the whole thing. But it is something that is doable.
Thank you, Veronica. And the next question in the same kind of like concept is from somebody, and here's what they say. Someone who's close to us, struggling with a problem. My adult son is not working. I know that he needs to find a job and to form a life for himself. He has lived on his own many years, but I feel he hasn't started to fully form into the adult he needs to be for himself, parentheses. He is smart, creative, attractive, and true joy to be with, but for many reasons he has not gotten a full-time job and worked to his capabilities. And how do I handle, this is the big deal, how do I handle the feelings of guilt that I have about how I must have caused this in how he was raised? Kathleen.
A parent's job in physical reality is to guide and help their children attain what they need to do. We don't think in this instance that anything you did was a detriment. We think that your son, so far, simply has not grounded himself enough to create the atmosphere that he wishes to create. We think his thought process wavers a bit. And a wavering thought process never creates what you want to create. And we do think your son wants to create a job and stability in his own environment. We say, instead of blaming yourself for what was, start by encouraging him to think clearly, to move forward with clarity. And anytime you're with him or talk to him, encourage that in him and challenge him to step up. So instead of looking at it as a failure, look at it as, here's an opportunity. He's an adult, and I can talk to him clearly and plainly. And this is how I'm going to talk to him from now on, to encourage him to be everything he is, but to also think clearly so that he can participate in the reality in the way that this culture sort of dictates one to create. We think your son will find his spot, and we do think through your support, but not fixing it for him. He's got to fix it himself, but being supportive energetically, you can help him attain what he needs to attain. But remember, do it for him. He must do it for himself now. He's a grown man.
Thank you, Veronica. And here's another thing that some might consider negative, but we don't run from that kind of thing. This is from somebody who doesn't even use their own name, of course. But they say, of course you yourself don't need to care what people think, April, in quotes. And it's so easy for you to preach about not feeling any fear because you're not having to live in your car with your family because of having lost your home to the evil bankers. On the contrary, you are filthy rich because you are a scam artist just like those bankers. So how do we respond to this? You know, I know how I would respond. I know exactly how I respond about victimhood and that kind of stuff. But what do you say to somebody like this?
We first would offer our energy as a support. There is a lot of anger in this individual, and we understand where the anger is coming from. And oftentimes when someone is extremely angry, it feels good to sort of unload their feelings onto another. We'd say instead of using your energy in such a way, it would perhaps be better to use your energy to think more clearly and think, oh, how do you get out of it? We think you're more angry with the bankers than you are with the April Crawford. And it's hardly a rich moment. It is a moment where there's a lot of giving and a lot of sharing. And this individual is obviously not seeing clearly what the April Crawford is all about. But we'd say instead, perhaps use that energy for a more positive moment because anger never really gets you anywhere.
Now, because I'm paying for this commercial time, I will just also say that living in victimhood and negative attractions to money do not seem to have worked out for this person. He may want to try another approach. Here's another one about anger. I have a question about anger, difficulty controlling anger. My grown son, this is from Ilian White, so you may have a personal message. My grown son seems to erupt with hostility, aggression, and anger over the smallest things. He's very moody. I would like to know how I can help him. His moods tend to put a dark cloud over everyone else's harmony. He doesn't know where it comes from. Thank you.
In this particular instance, there's a lot of unresolved energy from past life moments and internal moments that have not really enacted themselves in physical reality and sort of burst out of this particular individual at random times. We think that perhaps introducing this individual to an opportunity to clear their minds. Now, they're probably not going to be all that able to embrace it, but until they take a good look at themselves and release all of their attraction and embracement of negativity, they're not going to do so well. We think that a lot of it comes from past life moments, and perhaps that person, if their belief system allows, should do some past life regression to find out where the core of this negative energy is coming from.
Thanks, Veronica. And since we touched on past lives, before we've asked, like, how do you find out about, people that, professionals like medical doctors and psychologists want to talk about, or pets, they want to talk about their pets, and can you move into them? And obviously they find it valuable, or they wouldn't keep calling back. How about past lives, Veronica? There are a group of people who are very interesting, not just in their past lives, but their own past lives. So if you talk to somebody and that is their interest, how do you follow, or can you follow, those past life threads in order to, let them know what they're looking for?
When we talk to an individual, we usually have their first name, and if they voice an opinion or ask, then we can move into a thread of energy that emanates from them that connects them to who they are as a total being, not just who they are in the current costume that they're wearing. It's not hard to do, And especially if there's a lot of negativity or trauma in these past life moments, it's usually fairly evident. It would take a moment or two to process the individual energies involved in it, but all we usually really need is the energy of the individual and an expressed interest in, okay, something's going on and I don't know what it is. We can move into a past life moment, and not just one past life, but the series of it, because you are a total conglomeration of all your past lives. It's fairly easy to do.
Okay, we have another question that is about Alzheimer's disease. And a lot of people, know somebody who deals with this. So the general questions are, what happens when someone has Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's is a sort of a premature shutdown of brain activity. The brain starts to shut down and all of the memories of the moment become distant or unattainable. In that moment, the person who has the Alzheimer's appears to be disoriented, appears to be, uncommunicative in the linear reality. But a lot of times they are lifted up and out of the form and are thinking quite clearly in the eternal moment. There are times when it is available to connect to a person with Alzheimer's to try to bring them in a little bit more clearly in their current moment so that they may have a communicative kind of experience with those around them. But those who have Alzheimer's aren't totally, you can help them, but they have one foot in eternal and one foot in linear. It's important to know that they still are who they are, but they are now doing it from a different perspective because the brain cavity has sort of shut itself down and is not allowing the movement of energy through it. But it doesn't mean that they are diminished in any way.
Okay, this is a little bit, back to the can you create in another person's reality? But we have a question on the comments, which was essentially, if you are worried about parties, say a family member, a loved one, getting into a car crash or having some kind of accident, if you were worried about this stuff, are you helping to attract that event into their lives?
It is always important to see those you care about and love healthy, safe, and content. To start to project into a worrisome moment of, there might be an accident, there might be something negative, then you are planting seeds of negativity. And it's more important to, let's say your teenage son is going out for the first time in the family car to meet up with a friend. It's the first time he's driving, and your heart is beating out of your chest because you say, what if he gets in an accident? What if there's a drunk driver? What if? You're creating an atmosphere of seeding that is unnecessary and could help co-create a bad moment if the seeds were all coming from the other side as well. So we say the best thing to do in any circumstance is to see those you love and those you care about in a very healthy, safe place, no matter what they're doing, because then you're contributing to their well-being and not contributing to any sort of nonsense that might arise.
Thank you, Veronica. And the next question I have queued up here, someone wants to release certain things. Sunny says, my question has to do with incest and how one releases the sadness that remains inside the body. I was abused by family members for a long time, and I understand much of what my family felt when they acted out on me. I would like to be free of the deep sadness, but I am not sure how to finish this process.
When someone perpetrates upon you a negative action, and it is considered by the culture to be very abusive, it's important to have forgiveness. And we realize that's a hard thing to do, especially if someone has hurt you in a physical way, emotional way, spiritual or mental way. But to truly move on from the energy and release yourself from it, forgiveness is important. Because a lot of times those who perpetrate such things are doing it from an ignorant moment, a reactive moment, or are doing it to alleviate some sort of tension within them that is uncontrollable. Forgive them. Let them go. Certainly do not participate with them again. But if you continue to harbor ill feelings towards them, you're keeping them in your energy field. And in all the instances, any sort of abuse needs to be released out of the body. By forgiving them, you can walk away clean and not have any more interaction with them.
Okay, Veronica, this is a question from Judy. And she says, love it, love it, love it. Keep up the good work. We will. I am sure you're helping us all understanding life. Could you please explain how a soul decides when it is time to come back to Earth for another life? Thank you so much.
When an energy crosses out of the physical form, there is a time of contemplation that all go through. It is with your guides, and you look at things from all perspectives and decide what worked and what didn't work. No one decides, no one judges you but yourself. And no one decides if you're going to come back or you're not going to come back into a linear reality. Sometimes a linear life can be so difficult that one needs a bit of a break. Or one may decide, hey, another dimensional space and reality might be better for me in my growth, so I'm going to go do that for a while. No one is dictating what you must do. Your energy, when you are in your contemplative moment, is what decides what you're going to do next. No one else. There's no dictator. There's no one sitting on a throne telling you, okay, this is what you have to do. You decide for yourself what you're going to do.
Thank you, Veronica. And the final question before we get to your message to the world is, this is from Tin Conrad. He says, thanks, Veronica, for all your wisdom. I was wondering, you say that animals are usually more evolved than humans. I always thought animals are evolving to be humans eventually. If not, where do they go from being an animal?
There are some animals who are pursuing that path of evolving into human, but they're usually pursuing that path to help humans. We'd say that animals are in the moment. They are not projecting into the future, dwelling in the past. They are very present. And their frequency is just as vivid and strong as a human's energy. It's different, but there is no animal that is less than human. They are just as equally as strong and sound. They're having a different experience, of course, but they are mostly come here to help humans evolve along the way. And a lot of animals come in already extremely evolved to do just that.
Okay, and as my way, I will just add that there are some animals like dolphins and whales, which are just as interested in the evolutionary process as humans, and elephants are really close. But now, I am going to ask Veronica to give her message to the world, and I'm foregoing my opinion on everything.
All of you are having your individual experiences. We talk to many that find the blockages in their path on a daily basis, sometimes even more than that on an hourly basis. And they ask us, why? Why is it so hard? Why, has this popped up to cause me difficulty? And many become very discouraged in that moment and spiral into despair and find themselves sort of landlocked in their evolutionary process. We would say that blockages and delays can often be beneficial if one looks at them properly. Decide that through inconvenience and discomfort, that growth is promoted. Sometimes you have to do something to get your attention, and if you allow yourself to get all caught up in the negative moment, then you can continue to create it. But if you look at it as an opportunity to say, okay, a moment for me to stop and pay attention, then you release that negative moment and you don't keep creating it over and over, and you move into a more prosperous moment much easier. Appreciating that and knowing that is often a good way for those of you who are involved in a continual line of negativity to decide to say, I'm going to look at this as a lesson and I'm going to release it so that I can move forward in a more positive manner. We think all of you need to think about that every day, because we think every one of you has had a moment where you've spiraled into negative, and found yourself in a huge mess that you've had to pull yourself up by the bootstraps to get out of. Why not decide that with something, difficult happens, find the lesson in it. Find out what caused this to happen so that you can glean the lesson and move on already. Because if you don't do that, then that negativity can continue to spiral, continue to grow, continue to create an atmosphere of hardship until you can't get past it. So, and anytime something comes up, don't look at it as, oh, poor me, this happened to me, and I'm a victim for it. You look at it and say, okay, this happened. Why did it happen? And how can I resolve it without allowing myself to slide down the hill of despair and create an atmosphere that is productive for my energy? We know we will be accused of, oh, Veronica, you don't even know what it's like to be in physical linear. And we say, yes, we do. We've had our linear lives, and we understand the difficulties and the harshness of it. But by finding the lesson in the moment, whether it's positive or negative, is the only way to get through it with any clarity. So decide now that if something negative pops up, you're going to take a good look at it, and you're going to determine what needs to be done to resolve it. That's really the only way to get through the life.
Thank you, Veronica. And this concludes the interesting part of this broadcast. Now, in the future, there's going to be more good stuff, including for those who write me all the time and say, we want more of the scientific stuff, or more of the stuff you're interested in. The fact is, most people are not interested in what I'm interested in. They think it's stone cold boring, and I'm talking about Big Bang physics, quantum, entanglement, all that stuff, light, gravity. That's the stuff that I'm now interested in. But in the beginning, 20 years ago, I was interested in mostly life after death, what happens, and the entire nature of consciousness. So again, still cold boring to most of you, but it will be coming eventually, at least in this after the interesting part of the session, that I may make a few comments. Thank you, and look forward to you next time.